I recently started working at a local drugstore, and let me tell you, retail is a whole different world. After graduating college with an art degree and struggling to find work in my field, I figured a temporary job would help pay the bills while I built my portfolio. It was my third week on the job, and I was finally allowed to work the register alone. The store had this policy where we needed to check IDs for certain medications, even over-the-counter ones, due to some recent changes in local laws. It was a pain, but rules are rules. The day started normally enough. The morning rush had died down and I was restocking the candy display near my register when this older man came up with a cart full of cold medicine. Not just one or two boxes, he had at least 15 boxes of the same brand. I greeted him and politely told him that I'd need to see his ID for the items. He didn't respond at first, just kept typing on his phone. I had to repeat myself, apologizing but explaining that I couldn't sell the medicine without checking his ID. He finally looked up, clearly annoyed, and asked sarcastically if he looked under 18 to him. I explained as politely as I could that I understood his frustration, but it was store policy to check ID for these items regardless of age. The man got more frustrated and told me he'd bought these items here before, demanding that I call my manager. I reached for my radio to call a manager, but before I could, this woman behind him in line decided to insert herself into the situation. She was probably in her mid-40s, wearing expensive-looking workout clothes and sporting that classic "I need to speak to your manager" haircut. The woman, who I'll call Karen, started ranting about how we should just sell him the medicine since he was clearly old enough, complaining that some people had places to be. I tried to explain that while I understood her frustration, I had to follow store policy. She launched into a tirade about how the country was going downhill and how everything needed paperwork nowadays, starting to reminisce about back in her day. Before she could finish her rant, my manager arrived. After I explained the situation, my manager immediately backed me up, telling the man that we legally needed to check ID for these purchases, emphasizing that it wasn't just store policy but the law. The man finally grumbled and showed his ID, but Karen wasn't done. She announced she was recording everything and claimed it would go viral, accusing us of discriminating against elderly customers. She actually pulled out her phone and started filming. My manager stepped between me and the camera, telling her that filming inside the store was against policy and asking her to stop. Karen started shouting about knowing her rights and claiming it was a public place. My manager told her that this was actually private property and warned that she'd have to leave if she continued filming. That's when things got really interesting. Karen tried to push past my manager to film me, but she slipped on the floor mat and dropped her phone. It skidded under the counter, and when she bent down to grab it, she knocked over our entire candy display. Hundreds of candy bars scattered across the floor. The older man with the medicine just stepped over the mess and left. Other customers started recording despite being told not to, and Karen completely lost it. She started screaming that we had made her do this and claimed it was assault, threatening to call the police. My manager pointed out that we had security cameras that showed her pushing the manager and knocking over the display, asking if she'd like the police to see that footage. Karen started screaming about this being a setup and how we were all against her, threatening to call her lawyer. She tried to storm out but slipped again on a candy bar, landing flat on her back. By this time, security had arrived. They helped her up, but instead of leaving, she tried to throw a handful of scattered candy at us. Security had to literally carry her out while she screamed about lawsuits and discrimination. The entire thing was indeed caught on our security cameras, and she actually did try to sue the store. Her lawyer dropped the case as soon as he saw the footage. I heard through other employees that she got banned from every location of our store in the state. The older man with the medicine, he came back the next day with his ID ready, apologized for the previous day, and explained he was buying supplies for a senior center. We ended up becoming friendly, and he always made sure to have his ID ready after that. I still work at that store, and while I've had my share of difficult customers since then, nothing quite compares to that day. Every time I see someone start to complain about showing ID, I just smile and think about the candy bar slip and slide incident, as we now call it. After moving to America 5 years ago to pursue my master's degree in business administration, the pandemic hit and my plans got derailed. My savings were running low and I needed something stable to tide me over. That's when I saw the help wanted sign at this local laundromat. The owner, a kind elderly man, took me under his wing. He taught me everything about running the place, from maintaining the machines to handling the books. What started as a temporary job became something I genuinely enjoyed. Most of our customers were wonderful people, often sharing stories about their lives while waiting for their laundry. But there's always that one person who makes you question humanity. Last Tuesday, while I was doing my usual rounds, checking the machines, I heard someone practically stomping into the office. It was this elderly lady who'd been coming here for years. I recognized her as one of those customers who always acted like they owned the place. She walked up to the counter and glared at me, complaining that the dryer was eating her money. She claimed she had put in $5 and wasn't getting the right amount of time. I told her I would check it right away and asked for the machine number. She snapped back that it was number 12, adding pointedly that she knew how to use these machines since she'd been coming here for 15 years. I went outside to check the dryer. Everything looked normal. No stuck coins, no mechanical issues. I even tested it myself and it worked perfectly. Back in the office, I pulled up the transaction history on our computer. Sure enough, the time she received matched exactly with the money she'd put in. I grabbed some complimentary drying time tokens from the drawer, thinking I'd offer them as a gesture of goodwill, even though there wasn't actually any problem. But when I stepped out of the office, she was already waiting with her arms crossed. I tried to explain what I had checked, but she cut me off. She started ranting about how often she came here and how she never made mistakes, then demanded to know if I had any idea how to help her. Before I could even show her the tokens in my hand, she sneered that she didn't think so, and that people like me don't know anything. She stormed over to the dryer, yanked her clothes out while they were still damp, and stuffed them into her basket. The whole time she was muttering about incompetent workers and this place going downhill. After she left, several of our regular customers came up to check on me. One sweet lady asked if I was okay and said the woman was completely out of line. Another customer mentioned they'd seen her act like this before, telling me about how last month she was yelling at the vending machine outside. I assured them I was fine and suggested that maybe she was just having a bad day. What happened next was actually pretty satisfying. The following week, the elderly lady returned, probably thinking I wouldn't be there, but this time the owner was present. She started her usual routine about the dryer eating her money again, but before she could get into full swing, the owner interrupted her. He told her that he had reviewed the security footage from her last visit and had seen how she treated me, mentioning that I had been trying to offer her free drying time even though there was nothing wrong with the machine. He said her behavior was unacceptable. The elderly lady's face turned red as the owner continued, revealing that they had kept track of her complaints and this was her 5th time trying this routine. He then politely but firmly told her that they had the right to refuse service and suggested she try one of the many other laundromats in the area. She stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water, before grabbing her empty basket and rushing out. As she pushed through the door, she nearly collided with another customer who was coming in. The owner turned to me with a smile and said something that made my day, that nobody disrespects his staff and that I was the best attendant he'd had in 20 years. The regular customers who witnessed this gave a small round of applause, and one of the regular customers even brought me coffee the next day. It's moments like these that make me appreciate how this temporary job turned into something much more meaningful. I've had focal awareness epilepsy since I was 14. Back then, my parents thought I was just being dramatic when I'd suddenly freeze up and start gagging. It took 3 doctors and countless tests before we finally got the diagnosis. The hardest part wasn't even the seizures themselves. It was dealing with people who didn't understand or believe me. Fast forward to when I was 22, working at this mid-sized grocery store to help pay for college. The job itself wasn't bad. Stocking shelves, helping customers find things, basic retail stuff. My seizures were usually under control, but stress would trigger these awful clusters where I'd have multiple episodes a day. The store had this toxic culture about calling in sick. You'd think a place that handles food would be more understanding, but nope. Every time someone called in sick, the managers would act all concerned to their face, then turn around and trash talk them the moment they hung up the phone. When I first interviewed for the job, I was upfront about my condition. The store manager at the time seemed very understanding, telling me they appreciated my honesty and assured me they would accommodate my needs. For the first few months, everything was fine. Then I had my first cluster while working there. I called in sick for 3 days straight. I apologetically explained that I was having multiple seizures and didn't think it was safe for me to come in. The supervisor responded with seeming sympathy, telling me to take care of myself and let them know when I was feeling better. I thought they were being genuine. Then a coworker who'd become a good friend pulled me aside one day. They nervously told me that the managers had been saying nasty things about me when I wasn't there. When I asked what they meant, my coworker revealed that the managers thought I was faking my seizures to get time off. They'd overheard the assistant manager the day before suggesting I was probably just hungover or lazy. I later learned that the assistant manager had been questioning the convenience of how my seizures only happened when I was alone or at home. A supervisor had agreed, pointing out that they always seemed to occur before busy weekends. Finding this out felt like a punch to the gut. These people who'd been so sweet to my face had been mocking my disability behind my back. The next time I felt a cluster coming on, they tried their usual guilt trip routine when I called. The store manager complained about being short-staffed and tried to make me feel bad by saying everyone else was working hard to cover my shifts. That's when I decided to give them exactly what they wanted, me at work during a cluster day. The first seizure hit about an hour into my shift. I felt the aura coming and walked straight to the manager's office where 3 supervisors were having their morning meeting. I told them I was about to have a seizure. They looked confused until my face started twitching and the violent gagging began. I threw up right there on their office floor. After it passed, I grabbed some cleaning supplies. The supervisor frantically told me I should go home, but I casually brushed it off, reminding them that the episodes pass quickly. An hour later, I found the assistant manager in the warehouse. I gave her a quick warning about another seizure coming. This time I managed to grab a trash can, but the retching and facial spasms were impossible to miss. She desperately tried to convince me to go home, but I sweetly reminded her about how short-staffed we were, saying I wouldn't want to let the team down. By the 4th seizure, this time in front of the store manager and a visiting district manager, they'd had enough. The store manager gave me a direct order to go home and not come back until I was better, promising they'd cover my shifts with no questions asked. The district manager echoed this, insisting I take all the time I needed to recover. The district manager apparently had some choice words with the management team about disability discrimination. Suddenly, all that behind-the-back gossip stopped. They even implemented a new store policy about medical accommodations. These days, when I call in because of a cluster, they just say feel better soon and leave it at that. Sometimes, people need a front row seat to understand what they've been dismissing. I just made sure they had the best seats in the house. It was our 5th wedding anniversary, and my husband and I had this tradition of making celebrations extra special. And not just with dinner and gifts, but with some spicy surprises too. This year was important because it coincided with Christmas, and we both wanted to make it memorable. I'm a high school teacher, and my husband works in IT. We're pretty ordinary people who just happen to enjoy keeping our marriage exciting. After saving up for a few months, we decided to go all out with our shopping this year. The adult store was having a holiday sale, which was perfect timing. My husband and I had been browsing together, picking out various items that caught our interest. I had my arms full of different outfits and accessories, including some rather interesting toys and a ball gag. My husband was enthusiastic about his choices, whispering suggestions in my ear about how we could use each item. We separated briefly as he went to look at something in another aisle. I was examining an interesting outfit when I felt someone tap my shoulder rather aggressively. The woman demanded assistance, claiming she had been waiting forever. Before I could even finish explaining that I didn't work there, she cut me off and asked me to check the back room for a bra in her size. I was wearing all black that day, black jeans and a black sweater, which I guess could look like a uniform if you squinted really hard. But I definitely wasn't wearing the store's signature pink lanyard or name badge. I tried again to explain that I didn't work there and was just shopping. That's when she lost it. She literally screamed in my face, making some horrific sound while clenching her fists. Several other shoppers turned to stare. She accused me of lying, saying she had just seen me helping a man. I had to explain that the man was my husband and I wasn't helping him. He had been telling me what he wanted to do with the items I was holding. Her face went through about 50 shades of red when she looked at what I was carrying. She called everything disgusting, repeatedly expressing her disgust at our purchases. Instead of finding an actual employee, this woman decided to follow me around the store, yelling about how inappropriate and revolting it was that I was buying these items. Mind you, we were in an adult store. What did she expect people to be buying? Lawn furniture? The really ridiculous part was that she walked past two actual employees in their pink uniforms while stalking me. They were clearly available and could have helped her find her bra, but she was too focused on making me miserable. When I finally got in line to pay, she was still there, muttering and shooting daggers at me with her eyes. That's when my husband rejoined me, and I'd had enough of her behavior. I turned to her and sarcastically offered to explain in detail what each item was for and share our plans for the evening. My husband caught on immediately and played along, pulling out another item from behind his back and making a suggestive comment about our planned activities for the night. She sputtered for a moment before practically running to the other end of the store. As she fled, she nearly knocked over a display of lubricants, causing one of the actual employees to finally notice her. The employee politely asked if she needed help finding anything, but she just screamed about how disgraceful the store was and declared she would never shop there again. She stormed out, leaving her unwanted bra on a random shelf. The employee just shrugged. Clearly, this wasn't the first time they'd dealt with someone like her. My husband and I couldn't stop laughing as we checked out. The cashier, who had witnessed the whole thing, gave us an extra 10% discount for handling the situation so well. They apparently knew exactly who she was. She'd been in several times before, always causing scenes and demanding help from random shoppers. We left the store with our anniversary supplies and a great story to tell, though I still wonder what possessed her to go lingerie shopping in an adult store if she was so offended by adult items. The local department store probably would have been a better choice for her sensibilities.